It's easy to say this stuff. It's easy to nod. We've been blessed with brilliant intellect and passionate, powerful intuition. We all can grasp these simple, absolute truths that power us on. But yet at the same time, with every cell of your body wired to the illusions as we have voluntarily submitted, we can sometimes fall into the mistaken beliefs that we're vulnerable, that life's hard, that we ought to settle for what we've got and be happy where we are. You know, I think that is another one of life's great hooks. It's our highest responsibility to say, I get it, I know the truth, even when the world doesn't seem to be working the way I thought it should work. I am going to trust, I am going to believe, I am going to love. I'm going to power through my fears. I'm going to accept responsibility for all that happens. And I'm going to live as boldly as I can possibly imagine. That's why we're here. It's a fleeting gift. And we get to talk about dead people. A really talkative bunch, judging from all the different book covers and titles that are out there lately. So I want to make it really clear right off the bat. My book is a little bit different because I'm not a channel, a clairvoyant, or a medium in any fashionable sense of the word. I'm an accountant. I know debits and credits better than dharmas and crystals. Which begs the question right away, you know, why would I write such a book about the top 10 things dead people want to tell you? Well, it's kind of a long story, but given that I do write notes from the universe, I've written about 3,000 of them over the past 14 years. Oh yeah, woohoo! It was about 5 years ago when I was writing one, and they take many hours to write. I wish it was automatic writing. It's like automatic times 6 hours, and I have a paragraph. And I was going through the gyrations, and I was trying to punctuate a point I really wanted to make in the note as the universe to you, or to some of you. And I came up with a little line that said, and that's what dead people want to tell you. And I was like, oh, what a hook. That's good. And then the point being made wasn't so good as the hook. So I thought, I need to work on this a few more hours. I did, and I came up with the top 10 things dead people want to tell you. And was elated the day after it went out to see that it had gone viral, and it was on blogs the world over and in articles. Some people were thrilled with the news of what dead people want to tell you. Other people were really pissed off. But you know, that's the way it goes. You can't please everyone always. And I always thought from that point forward, you know, that would be just a killer book title, the top 10 things dead people want to tell you. And each of the things would be a chapter. It'd be 10 chapters long. And I had that thought in my mind for about 1.5 years when I was, through the graces of Nick Ortner, introduced to Hay House, Patty Reed, and Patty Gift and Reed Tracy. And they asked what ideas I might have for a book. And I said, well, I got about 10 of them. 8 of them are already written. 2 of them, including Dead People, are not. And it's the ones that weren't written that they wanted, which was really great, except I had to write a whole book. And I did. And so it came out, and quite happy with all that it's done. The question that gets asked the second most often is, how do I know what I know? Why would I write about what dead people want to tell you, given that I'm an accountant? I guess it's a fair question. So I anticipated it a little bit, and so I have an introduction to the book that's like 20 pages long, explaining how I know what I know, and a whole first chapter that further brings the reader on board. And basically, I want to share with you a little passage, or many little passages in the book during my hour, because sometimes the written word can be so precise, and sometimes a paragraph, like a note from the universe, will take 6 to 8 hours to write. And in the end, you know, I'm pretty thrilled with them, and they say what I wanted to say so well that I don't want to risk speaking extemporaneously and not being able to hit those notes. So I'm going to do a lot of reading from my book, and the first little reading is a real simple admission as to how I know what I know, followed by an urging to all readers, listeners here today, to go within and ask the hard questions. It's our highest responsibility, and you'll be awesomely surprised to discover that we all have the ability to answer those questions, whatever they may be. So very simply, this book is about dancing in the truth of love that you've silently felt your whole life. Fear not, I won't ask you to make huge leaps of blind faith to keep up with my explanations. Instead, I'll share all that I have come to know with a little bit of logic, common sense, life experience. This book offers a rational approach to understanding that's my own words, what life means and how to live it. You'll see that by first recognizing and then accepting the abundantly obvious, life, miracles, and happiness, at face value without the usual over-interpretations, justifications, and analysis, you can come to have a more interesting and empowering handle on your fortunes. Like the fellow life adventurer I am, as if watching over a sleeping compatriot who's about to miss breakfast, I'm going to nudge you a bit and gently shake your shoulder to help you awaken and see that something incredible is going on. Something absolutely wondrous, and that you are at the center of it all. Well, you know, I kind of thought that explanation, repeated again and again, might be enough to convey how I know what I know. I went within, I used intuition, I used logic, I drilled down, and I settled for nothing less than the answer. I thought logic would be enough. Hell no. I'm happy to say that this book has perhaps outsold all of my other books. And by simple math, it's gotten the most reviews, almost 1,000 at Amazon.com, 700 5-star reviews. But by pure math, a whole lot more 1-star reviews than I ever thought was possible. I was mortified when they started coming in. Now I have a sense of humor. In fact, I've decided to share a few with you. And I'm sure you'll imagine what it was like as the author to read these coming in on the first week of the book's release. I'm like, don't these people know that other folks are going to read their review like the author? Manic twaddle, nonsensical, author is deaf on drugs, disorganized trips of the imagination, delusions of grandeur, blasphemous and disgusting, truly bizarre and strange. And my favorite, author has a mental condition. Well, I got over my devastation pretty quickly when it turns out that controversy sells books. Woohoo! Take that. So, my premise in the book and in life and in all of the talks that I give and in all the notes that I write begins with a simple concept that life is the ultimate knowable. Why would we be tossed into these illusionary jungles to just completely fend for ourselves with answers that are always out of reach? That is illogical. Doesn't make sense to me. I want to know what the truth is. And I believe that the truth in all matters is absolute. No gray area. Perhaps one of the things that ticked off some of my reviewers is I make it very clear that I am not one of those people that believes everyone has their own truth. There goes your power. Now that might sound naive or abrasive at first. Hey, there are a million roads to Rome, but not one of those roads changes Rome. Rome is Rome, no matter how you get there. The truth is the truth, no matter how you get there. There are a million. There are an infinite number of ways to truth, but none of those ways changes truth. It's absolute, it's simple, it's benign, and it will resonate in your body, mind, and soul when you stumble into it. So in the intro and in the first chapter, my first attempt, with the benefit of the dead rooting me on, is to give readers a resource or a tool to go within, connect some dots in a most playful, lighthearted way, not connecting too many, but just enough for clarity, so that we can have traction, so that we can decide what it is we really want and power our ways to it. So the deductive reasoning that I urge everyone to do, going within, not listening to me or taking what I say as truth, but using it as a stepping stone and discerning for yourself, does this make sense or not, begins with connecting dots, leaping from where Einstein left off. Einstein said that time is relative, meaning different from one person to the next. By extrapolation, so is space and matter, different from one person to the next. That's known science. The first dot I really want to connect, and I want to bring you along on this ride of collecting 5 or 6 or 7 dots to reveal the awesomeness of the nature of life and your presence here, is to suggest that relativity is synonymous with illusionary. Simply meaning time, space, and matter are not what we thought they were. And that is hardly a leap. Scientists already tell us that matter is not solid. It's whirling, organized energy. So the first dot I want to connect with you to create this foundation of truth that you can always return to for clarity and a boost of confidence is to say that time, space, and matter are illusionary. If they're illusionary, the next dot, wouldn't that mean that there must be another realm or dimension that gives these parameters rise? Just as if you can't have a mirage in a desert without having a desert, I'm suggesting you can't have the illusions of time, space, and matter without some other realm or dimension that gives them rise. And this is nothing of a leap if you're remotely religious or were raised in such a fashion. All religions believe in another realm, another dimension. So another very gentle and very benign dot, that there's another realm out there. If you're on board, then the next question I had in the book is asking you, and this is a bit weird, if you were to visit this other realm or dimension, what might you find there? Perfect example of where there's so many dots, we don't know where to begin. We let other people answer the question, and then we live our lives based on other people's answer. But in spite of all those dots, I can connect one that I'm sure you'll all be on board with. At a minimum, you find some form of awareness, intelligence. Maybe call it divine intelligence. I mean, after all, if matter is whirling organized energy, who organized it? So there's just some form of intelligence, as opposed to life being completely random chance chaos, no intelligence whatsoever. What's another word for awareness or intelligence? I said it in The Secret. I held my fingers up. Thoughts. Thought. Thoughts become things. Thought. This is huge. This means in a realm, in a dimension, pre-time, space, and matter, where there was once only thought, intelligence, divine intelligence, now in the space of thought, there's mountains, rivers, oceans, planets, you and I. What must it all be made of? Thought. It has to all be made of thought. And look who's thinking now. And more, another word for awareness, thought, intelligence, divine intelligence, is a little bit scary here. God. With no strings attached, please. Just, you know what I'm talking about. God, this mastermind. If in a realm where there was nothing but God, now amongst others, there's you and I, who must we be? We are literally, not metaphorically, the eyes and the ears of God Almighty come alive in the dream of life. This is huge. This is gigantic. And it's a little bit scary because you don't want to get in trouble. So, okay, God is infinitely more than us, unimaginably more than us, but still that doesn't mean that there's not a single cell in our bodies that couldn't be less than 100% pure, divine God intelligence right this very moment. And then the question might come, well, I don't really remember creating the sun, the moon, and the stars, and I don't want to get in big trouble. You don't remember. So what? Do you remember what you had for lunch 3 days ago? Does that mean you didn't have lunch 3 days ago? Do you remember beating your heart a couple thousand times, 10,000 times today? No? Does that mean you didn't? Remembering something has never had anything to do with our ability to otherwise deduce and discern what must be truth. And if you're curious, why not? Maybe there's a really cool reason you don't remember hanging the stars in the night sky. Deductive reasoning. When you go to a movie matinee, do you want all the lights on or all the lights off? Off. Why? So you can see it better, but not just with your eyes. You want to feel it better with your heart. You want to be lost in each scene. You want to leave your life at the door so that you can be entertained and or educated to the max. The more you forget who you were, the more you can remember and feel who you are. You want to be scared at movies. You want to jump across the abyss. You want to climb up to the top of the mountain and shred the lions and tigers and bears on your way, slow motion too, George Clooney. Don't you? You want to be there fully, totally, 100%, because the entire experience, including you forgetting your day-to-day affairs at the door, is going to add to who you are. You're going to be more as a human being, a spiritual being, for the 90 minutes or so that you were sequestered in that movie theater, giving your full rapt attention to all that was happening on the screen as if it was your life. Exactly like your life right now. You wanted to forget who you were before this life began so that you could fully be who you now are. Because no matter what happens and no matter what doesn't happen, in the jungles of time and space, it's going to add to your divine spiritual brilliance beyond this lifetime. Everything here adds to us. There's only win-win, win-win, win-win-win, win-win forevermore because we are eternal beings. And speaking of your interest in wanting to really be focused where you are, who you are, as you are, why you are, we said that you are of God, by God, pure God. God come alive in the dream of life. Some form or derivation of you existed prior to the illusions, yet now you find yourself in the thick of things, in the soup, as it were. Through simple deductive reasoning, the dead want us to know there's only one possible explanation for your presence here now under those obvious circumstances. Only one makes any sense, and a child could deduce it. You had to have chosen to be here. You had to have. Divine intelligence doesn't go where divine intelligence doesn't most want to go. And as divine intelligence, you could have gone anywhere, anyhow, anyway. Of an infinite, mind-boggling number of incarnations, this means you being exactly who you now are, exactly as you now are, is who you most wanted to be. Why? I have no idea. But you don't have to know why, although you could drill down and figure it out, many have. You don't have to know why you chose to be here to otherwise be able to deduce that you chose it from the zenith of your Godhead, from absolute, total divine brilliance. And from there, it made universes of sense. And the kind of sense that would make you, cause you choose to be the awesome you that you are, would be shrouded in love, would be filled with beauty, bursting with potential and infinite possibilities. That's the only explanation for why you'd be here as the God particle that you are. You were not pushed off of a cloud. You did not draw the short straw. You did not say, I'll try time and space out. What do you got left? Tall, bald guy? Forget it. No. And more, given who you are, of, by, and for total divine intelligence, this unmistakably and absolutely means you, exactly as you now are, is who God most wanted to be on the day you were born. Of an infinite number of other possibilities, worlds, realms, and dimensions, you were it. This is when you ascend to your throne. This is when you move into truth. This is when you realize you've not been put here to be tested, judged, and sentenced. This is when you realize that life is not an accident, that there's order and perfection bursting at the seams of every moment in every single life. And this is when you start to get that life isn't a matter of survival of the fittest. That's watching too much Discovery Channel. The fact is, you're inclined to succeed. It's like you're being pushed on to greatness. Divine intelligence came here to totally rock and roll this lifetime as you. That's why you're here. Your default settings are through the roof in terms of abundance, health, harmony, clarity, joy, healing, laughter, friends. Whatever your heart desires, you're designed to get there. Now, one of my neighbors once said something really funny to me, which would have been insulting if I wasn't so, whatever, filled with myself. She said, I found out what you do, Mike Dooley. I found your website. I was like, oh, what do I do? She said, well, I call it wishful thinking. Now, when I tell you that you have default settings through the roof to thrive, to totally bust a move and blow the lid off of this stand, I gotta realize that that's gotta sound a little like hopeful. BS. We are so blinded by the lies and the dogma of the millennia that has led us here. Your lives, every single one of you, prove out your profound inclination to succeed. Easier to succeed by 1,000,000 times than to fail, like it's easier to smile than to frown. Have you not all smiled more than you've frowned? Laughed more than you've cried? By like 100,000 times? That's probably low. Have you not all had clarity way more than you've been utterly confused and totally lost? Have you not all had friends galore compared to not a soul that you can talk to on planet Earth? Like it's a joke. What happened to survival of the fittest? You've blown the lid off of it. Have you not all had health? Way more than you've been ill. Yeah, it's effortless. It's your nature. Haven't you all had money? Way more than you've been flat broke in the red negative. I mean, even money, you've crushed it. Can you imagine what the world will look like when we all see the obvious and stop towing the line and marching off the cliff like lemmings? This is what happens for the dead when they get on the other side and the lights come on and they're like, holy crap, it was so beautiful. There was love everywhere. There was like angels and helpers and guides. There's intuition. There's logic. Tools galore. My thoughts became things. But then it's too late. So what is the first thing you do when you get to a far destination? You pick up the phone after you take a few selfies and you're like, hey, I'm here. It's okay. I want you to know everything's great. And if you couldn't go back, as the dead can't come back, part of the rules we all agreed to in some forgotten time, you'd be like, don't make the mistakes I made. See the beauty, it's everywhere. Go for your dreams, they're all possible. That's why you're on earth. And for the things you want that you don't yet have, these are not demerits or marks to be embarrassed about. They're why you're here, because you're going to get them when you know the truth about all your power and all that's possible and the metaphysical principles that can make it so. Woohoo! So, that's kind of my little drill, and that's only, the first 10th of the book or 15th of the book, because you gotta ask the big questions. The answers are staring you in the face. Stop taking what other people have said blindly. Even weigh and measure every word I share with you today. That kind of deduction led me to the top 10 things people want to tell you, which are, number 1, we're not dead, which was pivotal in having a book. Number 2, there's no such thing as a devil or hell. We were ready, you are not. We're sorry for any pain we caused. Your dreams really can come true. Heaven is going to blow your mind. Life is more than fair, even when circumstances seem otherwise. Your old pets are as crazy as ever. And chapter 10, love is the way, truth is the path. So I owe all readers a look at the vexing questions, abuse, violations, and dogmas. Let's look at hell and the devil. And so that was right after the deductive reasoning that revealed that you are the eyes and the ears of the divine. Hey, now let's clear up some mess here. I truly believe it was perhaps the nastiest, most blasphemous, disgusting, to use reviewers' words, conspiracy ever perpetrated by man on man that says there's this evil lurking devil in hell who's going to toast sinners for eternity. That is the most sadistic, sad, illogical, pointless drill ever imagined. Many of our lives have been touched by suicide, and so I address suicide in some of the chapters where the subjects are dicey. I speak about suicide from the perspective of the one contemplating it, from the perspective of the one who chose it, and they're writing from the afterlife, and from the perspective of the survivors. Because what? We've been told, we've been led to believe that those we love dearly, who lived a life perhaps of self-torment and total anguish, leading them to take it prematurely, we're supposed to believe now that they have to serve eternity in hell? That's just hurtful. It's wrong. There's nothing good about it, and it contains no logic nor intuitive sense. I ask you, given what I've shared already, to consider, as if God, and this is what we're supposed to believe, the brilliance that started it all, that knew how to hang each star in the night sky and organize energy into matter, wasn't also wise enough to rehabilitate everyone so in need? Big enough to forgive unasked? Loving enough to refrain from tests, judgments, and sentences? Courageous enough to accept full responsibility for all her creation? And great enough to be assured of unblemished success? In fact, the system now in place achieves all of this and undoubtedly more, rehabilitating, forgiving, loving, and automatically, perfectly dispensing the exact right doses of whatever is called for at the exact right time. It's just that inquiring minds have not inquired enough, or rather, that they've left it for other folks to do, folks with agendas. So, I totally did not want it to sound like that the people who do evil things, I mean, they exist, we all know that. Ugly, hideous, disgusting things. I didn't want it to sound like they get off scot-free. Oh no, there is a payday. On the other side, when the lights come on, we see clearly. We see where all of our assumptions that were wrong, and we see the truth that we missed was there all along. And what comes to mind is a note from the universe that went out a good number of years ago. It said something to the effect of, while there is indeed no such thing as celestial judgment of any sort or kind, there remains consequences. And can you imagine the consequences to living in a beautiful emerald planet, supported by love at every turn, where your thoughts become things, your words give you wings, and not knowing it? Worse, not seeing a lick of it. Worse, thinking that people were evil and that God was angry, drawing false conclusions on your brothers and sisters and fellow life adventurers to the degree that you predicated your behavior towards them on your false assumptions. Maybe even worse, violating others because you were so ignorant. You're going to see that. You're going to see it all. Every skeleton, so-called, comes out of the closet on the other side, but is swiftly followed up with rehabilitation, with love. Because after all, we have forever and ever and ever. I've been asked a number of times talking about this book, so what do people find when they cross over? It's like, oh, that's the one thing you don't need me to tell you. If you've heard or read any of Anita Moorjani's brilliant work, or the other 5,000 books that are out there from people who have been to the other side, credible people, sincere, loving people whose whole life is creditable, why wouldn't their unique experiences that all parallel one another be similar and credible? They all say the same. Love turned up a gigatron full. I mean, love unimaginable, dripping off of everything. Most say they didn't even want to come back here. And you probably noticed most never do come back. Right? It's unflipping believable on the other side. Pure love and forgiveness and rehabilitation for everyone. But here's the gig. I think it's exactly the same here. That much love there, that's how much is here. But the hook is, we're being challenged to hold on to it, to see it, to believe it, to move with it. It's everywhere. That's the gig. That's the angle. To love in spite of it all. To love even when you're terrified. And consider this. However awesome it is over there, and it is awesome over there, unbelievably awesome over there, we still chose to come here. What's going on? There was a note from the universe that once said, however cool you think it might be to have an out-of-body experience, let me tell you, Bob, from where we are, having an in-body experience is the ultimate. And we get to do that right now. It's like there's a line on the other side of souls waiting for the perfect opportunity to reappear. And again, I can say this with confidence because we're here, and we most certainly didn't have to be here, and we chose to come here from where we were. Total bliss, known heaven, here to discover heaven on earth of our own creation that's every bit as dazzling and mind-blowing. This is the gift of our lives right now. And one of the coolest things about life on earth, as seen on the other side with brilliance to the point that they're slapping their heads and wanting another try, dreams really can come true. They do all the time. I say can and they say can because it's still up to us. And so they excitedly share what they see from their lofty perspectives. There are, of course, steps that virtually all physical manifestations can be seen to follow. Deliberately engaging their mechanics begins with knowing what they are. Becoming proficient enough to get consistent results requires practice. Critical to the process is knowing that you're never alone. You have an anxious universe and supportive principles at your beck and call, not accidentally, but by design. Non-judgmental, yet leaning in your favor, because this is in alignment with the intention of the entire non-neutral universe. You are it. You are adored. You are God becoming more, here to joyfully succeed. Your job is bringing about change. Your job in bringing about change is the easy part. Just 2 steps are required for unleashing metaphysical energies and laws, bringing about what others will soon call miracles, luck, destiny, divine intervention, coincidence, and the like. Way after writing this, my favorite line in the book emerged. Non-judgmental universe, yet leaning in your favor, because this is in alignment with the intention of the entire non-neutral universe. Remember your happy dance when you first learned that you weren't being judged, that you were adored for everything about you? It's like, yes, there's no judgment. We're all doing our very best. Woohoo! But then that turned into, oh, so anything could happen, my good thoughts, my bad thoughts. There's no judgment, like there's no caring, like, oh my gosh, I'm on a tightrope. Oh, I just had a worrisome fear in my head. I'm doomed. It's like, no, you don't have to worry. Non-judgmental doesn't mean neutral. The universe is not neutral. It is leaning in your favor. It is pushing you on to greatness. It is you. You are her. So don't confuse non-judgmental with neutral. There's no neutral about life. You are pegged to succeed. And knowing that is half the battle. So those 2 steps. Define what you want in terms of the end result. And number 2, show up every day moving in the direction of your dreams. This is just like digital GPS navigation, right? First thing that has to happen in your car after the engine's on, seatbelt's on, Barry Manilow's blasting, is what? What do you have to tell the system if you want to go to a place you've never been to before, which is synonymous with living a dream that's not yet come true? Don't know how to get there, do you? What's the first thing that has to happen for this GPS-guided adventure to be underway? You give it what? The destination, the end result. You don't tell it how. In life, you don't have to worry about how your dream's going to come true. This is not what the mortal brain was programmed to do. It's too small for that. You're just charged with, do you like this in your life? Cool. Do you like this? Awesome. Like this? Yuck. Change the picture. Change the end result. You do not have to figure out how you're going to get there. Just like in GPS navigation, you give the gizmo your desired destination in a heartbeat. It considers every how. It calculates speed limits, merges, yields, detours, traffic, congestion, and in a heartbeat, it knows the shortest, happiest, quickest way for you to arrive. But it says nothing until you do step 2, which is what? Put your car in gear. If your car is in park, the system is designed to not help you. Right? You're saying, I want to go there to the land of la-la and unicorns, but my car's in park. I believe in the law of attraction, car's in park. There's a vision board in my back seat, car's in park. You're not going anywhere. Not until you put your car in gear. Most people don't put their car in gear. Why? Because they don't know how to get there. And they think the universe will drive for them. The universe can't reach you if the car's not in gear. And the sad irony is, there's no wrong way. There's such lenience and play and latitude in the miraculous mechanics of all manifestations. You just got to show up and do your best. Consistently, the universe will connect the dots for you, and you're on your way to the point of arrival. If you went in the wrong way because Barry Manilow was drowning out the digital voice, eventually, when he finally shut up, you would hear, make a legal U-turn. Make a legal U-turn. The instant you're engaged, guidance is forthcoming, the same in life, which means you've got to start even though you don't know how your dream's going to come true. It doesn't matter what you do, it matters that you do it. That's so cool. That's so easy. Anybody can do that. And once you're going, you're going to be gently nudged here, nudged there. You'll see a billboard. You have a shot of inspiration, an epiphany, and the next thing you know, you're there. But another parallel here, quite uncanny. At what point in a 3-hour journey to a place you've never been to before would you realize the system worked flawlessly? In a 3-hour journey down roads you've never seen before, what point in the journey would you know it worked? Everything was a miracle. When you got there, which is terrifying. That means 2 hours and 59 minutes into the journey, everything still looks weird. Weird, not at all like what you were setting out to find 3 hours ago. Wouldn't it be a travesty to draw the false conclusion, it's not working for me. Works for everyone else but me. I must have invisible, limiting, self-sabotaging beliefs. I think I'm going to go home and watch The Secret 30 more days in a row. The whole while it was working for you, flawlessly for you. Just because you can't see the miracles doesn't mean they're not happening. That's by design. You don't pull out of the parking spot and then way over yonder like a dot on the hill, you see your friend like, come on, you're on the right path. You see nothing. That's the hook. In time and space, in spite of appearances, you must move forward in faith, knowing you're not alone, that you're divinely guided, that you're supernatural, that your thoughts become things. You must do your part so the universe can do her part. Well, then the book gets a little spicy and a little fun, and dead people are on a roll, but there's questions that pop up, and I've got to do you a service by addressing the ick and the yuck and such, and the question of fairness often comes up. And it might be, oh, good for you, Mike Dooley, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes bad things happen to good people. So, let's see. Now, this is where I really need you to ride along with each word in this passage and answer the question. Be reasonable, be hard, be determined to get to the truth. Wouldn't it seem, considering the splendor of it all, 10 sextillion suns, 100 million exotic species on this planet alone, the splendor of a mere apple, that the mind behind it all could have somehow created stopgap measures, instituted mechanisms to prevent unexpected, pointless, bad things from happening, at least from happening to good people? I mean, wouldn't it seem like that? Given the spectacular nature of reality, wouldn't you think that same mind could have prevented any ick from ever happening to anyone forever and ever and ever? It would seem like that, right? That's meaningful. Because the alternatives, well, we've heard these a little bit too much. Maybe ugly is the price of beauty. Maybe violence is the price for peace. Or hate the price of love. Does that make any sense at all? Oh, I so want to love you, but first I must hate you. I'd so like to live in North America, but first I must live in South America. The contrasts, which Abraham and many others talk about, they're theoretical. You don't have to live a good life as a Samaritan only to come back as an axe murderer. No, they're theoretical. You can live in bliss and abundance and prosperity and health back to back to back, moment after moment after moment, your entire life long. Don't misunderstand what contrast means. Or, the other old school thought here, maybe as religions have taught, evil exists unto itself as some primordial earthbound nebula or ugly energy mixture with a will and intelligence of its own, lurking in paradise like a cockroach in God's kitchen. Does that make any sense? Like, oops, who let the roaches in? Insufficiently capable of taking over all good things, this evil, yet, however depraved, still invincible enough to stand its ground and hold its own before God? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. But that's what they want us to believe. Do either of these old school alternatives seem even remotely possible when you see the obvious and consider that on this beautiful planet, there are birds who sing for ears that can hear at every hour of the day and night? It's so amazing. That there are creatures of the deep that flip, twirl, and leap just because it's fun. that there are furry friends who love just as dearly as they are loved, and that there are flowers so exquisite, pleasing human eyes could be their only explanation. Those things are the truth, which make us reconsider the premise to begin with. Alternatively, hypothetically, just maybe, is the very question of bad things happening fatally flawed? That would make sense. Perhaps the presumption that bad things even happen misses the mark, which would mean that bad things don't happen. Nothing is pointless, that the unexpected simply means serendipitous, not random. Wouldn't that make sense if we didn't see all the ugly? Wouldn't that make sense that there is no bad things in this bastion of perfection, that everything has some point, some purpose, some incitement based on love? That would make sense. And I put to you that that is exactly the case of our lives in time and space. And what comes to mind is a very enlightened conversation that I had the great gift of experiencing with the living legend, Bob Proctor. Many of you know of his work. He was also in The Secret. He is such a kind and generous man. We both spoke at an event in Northern California a couple of years ago. We had a 90-minute ride to the airport. He was kind enough to have his driver pick me up with him. So for 90 minutes, we talked about all kinds of stuff. And incidentally, it was kind of funny. I was so wowed. He actually dropped me off at the airport so I could get my Delta flight, the public airport, so he could drive on to the private airport and fly home in his jet. Thanks, Bob. Have a great flight. But this conversation was totally amazing because he's got such a storied career that goes like 5 decades long. I've hardly got a decade under my belt. We talked about everything under the sun, including the business of being a speaker, writer, teacher, and different things we've encountered. And somehow the conversation went to, the times we got ripped off, like, oh my God, this thing happened to me, and this thing happened to me, and no anger, no resentment, but just kind of musing on the roller coaster ride that is everyone's life. And I had a revelation in this discussion when we were both talking dollar numbers and that had gone flying out the doors and windows of our lives mindlessly on our behalves. And I said, even though sometimes there's an indisputable bad guy crook in the mix, it wasn't their fault. It was our own vibe that brought them into the mix. And so there's something to learn and a gift to be had, and all we have to do is change our vibe to return to where we were. And he's like, spot on, totally agree, absolutely makes sense. And I thought to kind of relay that to you, I'd share that, in life, there may be an indisputable crook or wrongdoer in your company, in your family, in your household, down the street. But it would be our vibe that allowed the dance to happen, which does not justify what they do, which does not mean you don't take them to court and have them locked in jail if that should be the case. But there's still room here with this analysis to realize by taking responsibility, you no longer need to feel vulnerable. And if somebody has taken $10 or $20 or $100,000 from you or some other way violated you, you have the ability, by accepting responsibility to some degree for what happened, of rising above and beyond where you once were before. And suddenly the whole thing takes on a new light. The things that have happened to us is not because of other people. They were just kind of marching on the orders that our vibe at the time created. And I know that creates some uncomfortable questions, and what about children? I don't have the time here to share and speak on those tangents because there are answers, not that they'll make anybody happy, but there are answers that evidence the order and the love involved in all circumstances in time and space, but the book does go much deeper than I will right now. Then we go on to another kind of dicey subject, because I got to cover every base. I owe that much to you. And it is the question of accidents. And Mike Dooley, you got to tell me that sometimes you got to believe there are coincidences, a little bit of luck, a little bit of unluckiness. Not for 1 second. The dead don't want you to give your power that way. And so I draw the parallels between a life in the jungles of time and space to that on a movie screen, because there are many. Are there any random close calls, near misses, or almost in a movie? Are there characters who almost get hurt, who almost fall in love, or who almost die? Of course not. It's all scripted ahead of time. Characters are cast in advance, decisions are made, remade, and made again. Narratives are born, edited, inserted. Dialogues crafted, rehearsed, performed. Nothing is left to chance. Too risky, too wasteful. Although it sure seems as if chance is involved when you're watching it from the comfort of your cinema recliner, because it's supposed to seem this way. Only then does it become believable. Nothing else is more important to the cinematic presentation than maintaining the appearance of chance. Without an authentic appearance, including surprises, free will, infinite possibilities, there'd be no emotional value, and the production would be worthless, like one's life. There is no chance. We are non-stop creators. No matter how random or weird or bizarre something is, it was crafted behind the curtains of time and space so that as we showed up in life, we could then experience it, which is hard to get the human brain around. But look at it like this. This is where people will ask me, doesn't your philosophy blame the victim? This is that old blame the victim mentality of you law of attractioners. I'm not having any of it. Blame, fault, and victim are words that utterly fail in any spiritual conversation because they take what's just happened out of the context from which it really emerged. For example, I have a toddler at home. We just went through the experience of watching her learn to walk, as many of you have watched youngsters learn to walk. And you can imagine, Mommy and I are sitting on the couch with our breath held as little baby Rebecca, stands up of her own volition, holding onto the coffee table. And then she has that look in her eye, and we know what's going on. And she takes a step and lets go with one hand. And we're just like turning blue, not breathing. And then she has the courage to let go and take another step. And we're like the biggest cheerleaders on our feet, another step, but as you could have imagined, she's going down. Would we jump up over her and say, now, Rebecca, honey, you brought this on yourself. There is no one to blame but you, darling. You deserve to fall with that coordination. Those words fail. They make no sense. They're insulting. They're painful. No law of attractioner who understands the nature of reality blames anybody for what's going on. But we can see, as parents can see, that learning to walk is the beginning of learning to run, is the beginning of learning to fly, and one day being an adult and soaring. So a little step is just a little speck on the process of becoming more as we move into eternity. It's not failure, it's not a victim, and nobody deserved it. We all chose to come here into the jungles of time and space to learn to fly. And sometimes we'll make judgments that don't serve us. Okay, is it our fault? It's not our, that doesn't work. Are we to blame? That doesn't work. You have to have the full perspective to realize that no one's vulnerable to accidents, that there's no such thing as bad luck. You live in a safe, beautiful world that will carry you on into eternity. Well, I didn't tell you, but every chapter of the 10 ends with a letter from a dearly departed on the other side, who puts the mumbo-jumbo of the chapter into a very human-like form. Makes it very, very real. I thought, I went, I'm sorry, I did, I saw, you're right. And I want to share just one of those letters with you. I said humanoid or human-like because this letter is from Brutus to Mom. Dear Mom, life is amazing here. Things to chase, streams to swim in, nastiness to roll in, the occasional lost camper who always thinks that he's found me and that I needed rescuing, whatever. I play along, teach them to throw, to trust, and to love again, like we do on earth. How are you? Are you getting out of bed on time without me? Do you still laugh out loud for no reason? I hope you don't mind how happy I am. Some moms miss their pets so much that their pets can't move on. Of course, their pets don't mind. They love their moms more than life itself. But if their moms are sad, then they're sad. And why be sad when everything's so great? When every goodbye guarantees a future, who's a good boy? When there are so many who now need you, furry and human, in their presence. So many. Besides, how can you miss someone who's with you? Why cry for what seems lost when there's still so much to find? Why let grief for what is not blind you to what still is and must always be? Why see life with only your eyes when your heart has double secret interdimensional X-ray vision? Unless, of course, you don't know any better. Mom, you gave me my eyes, my heart, and my love for life. Squirrel! Without you, I could not have carried on here in the unseen as I have. Now it's my turn to give back to you, so please hear what I'm saying. Do not think I'm lost. Because of you, I was found. Don't think my life is over. Instead, it has just begun. And do not regret what we didn't do, where we didn't go, what we didn't have. To know you was more than I even knew to hope for. That we spent so much of my life together, you can't even begin to understand my gratitude. Please celebrate every day, enjoy every moment, and love, 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 love everything, everyone, every how, and every way, just as you so unconditionally love me. I'm here for you, Mom. The fact that I'm happy doesn't mean I'm not waiting for you. You are the best part of my life. I'll never wander farther than your thoughts can reach, and I'll be the first to welcome you home. Who let the dogs out? Brutus. Every sparrow, the dead want you to know that nothing and no one is left behind ever. There are no bad dogs. Every cat gets more lives, and you can rest assured of more sloppy kisses, licks, and chirps in the next world. So great is the love behind creation. Fellow adventurers. It's easy to say this stuff. It's easy to nod. We've been blessed with brilliant intellect and passionate, powerful intuition. We all can grasp these simple, absolute truths that power us on. But yet at the same time, with every cell of your body wired to the illusions as we have voluntarily submitted, we can sometimes fall into the mistaken beliefs that we're vulnerable, that life's hard, that we ought to settle for what we've got and be happy where we are. You know, I think that is another one of life's great hooks. It's our highest responsibility to say, I get it, I know the truth, even when the world doesn't seem to be working the way I thought it should work. I am going to trust, I am going to believe, I am going to love. I'm going to power through my fears. I'm going to accept responsibility for all that happens. And I'm going to live as boldly as I can possibly imagine. That's why we're here. It's a fleeting gift. The dead want us all to know that life is over like that. The dead want you to know that life has purpose and meaning. It is not a chance, random occurrence. The dead want you to know that you've not been put here to be tested, judged, and sentenced. That you live on this floating emerald through the stars by the grace of divine intelligence, your divine intelligence. You are one with that divine intelligence. The cards of life are so stacked in your favor every single day of your life. It's like every day they want you to know. Every day is your birthday here.